Hi, we're live from Studio 4 at Simon & Schuster, and we're here today to talk about The Lost Queen by Signe Pike, which is this month's book club favorites pick. And my name is Isabel Da Silva, and I'm the marketer for the paperback of The Lost Queen, and I'm here with my wonderful colleagues who all have introduced themselves.
Hi, I'm Trish Todd. I'm the editor.
Hi, I'm Megan Rudloff. I work in Atria Publicity, and I'm the publicist for this lovely book.
Great. So before we go any further, I want to let you all know that there's a giveaway going on. So if you leave a question in the comments, you'll be entered for a chance to win 5 lucky winners. Will receive copies of The Lost Queen and next month's book club favorites pick, which we will reveal at the end of the video. So definitely stay tuned. And I wanted to let you know that our author, Signe Pike, couldn't be here in the building with us today, but because she lives in South Carolina. But she is in the comments, so she's hanging out there. And if there's anything we're not able to answer for you or something you want to ask her directly, go ahead and leave a question in the comments and she'll get back to you. So I wanted to, since we have the pleasure of having the lovely editor here, I'd love it if you would tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay, I was looking back through my emails this afternoon and I realized that it was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, right at this time of year, when this book was submitted to me. And it's the kind of book that you lie down on the couch and you never get up until you finish it. It's about a woman named Languoreth who was a real queen in 6th century Scotland and the twin sister of the person many believe was the basis of Merlin from the Arthurian legend. So this book has everything you could want. It has bravery and battles and great sex scenes and romance and treachery and great sacrifice in a society at war with itself at very tumultuous times. It's just such a luxurious read, and this is all told from the point of view of Languoreth, who is a young woman becoming a woman, stepping into the role that society has for her. She is in love with one man but must marry another. She can throw a knife. She can read her twin brother's thoughts, and she is a heroine that you will never forget.
I love this
Definitely.
book so much. I read it when we were getting ready to publish the hardcover, and it's exactly like you said. You start and you don't want to stop. So I wanted to talk a bit about the setting because it's really important in this book. So how do you think setting plays a role in the story?
Well, the setting is Scotland, and if you've ever been to Scotland or if you've ever seen pictures of Scotland, you know that the scenery is just spectacular. And so that makes this book very atmospheric. So, and there's a lot you can tell the author's love and the people's love of the natural world. So weather plays a big part, and plants and trees and nature plays a big part in this book. And there is kind of a magical element to this book, like this, when the characters trip on mushrooms, basically. But, that's, there's herbs, and they work with herbs and things like that. So, but Scotland is gorgeous, and you really do get that feeling in this book of the wide open spaces and the majestic mountains.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Scotland, but this definitely transports you there. As you can see in the cover, there's misty moors. It's very atmospheric, like Trish said. And Signe really focuses on the natural world. And part of that is because the religion in the book, it is the Druid religion. And they are which is Languoreth, the main character. It's her kingdom's religion, and it's very focused on the natural world. So that's made very evident. It's also very helpful that Signe has been and researched in Scotland many times. So it's definitely an authentic experience and feels like you're right there.
Yeah. I studied abroad in Scotland when I was in college, and it made me want to go back so badly and she talks about how when you go to Scotland now, a lot of the ruins of castles are still there, and you can walk around in them and you feel like you're experiencing history. And if you haven't been to Scotland, you can read this book and it'll transport you there, and if you have, then it'll call to mind your experiences. And I know you have a trip coming up, so you've got to tell us all about it.
No, I've been to Scotland, and I've been to Glasgow, and when you're in Glasgow, on the street lamps, every street lamp has a fish with a ring in its mouth. And when I read this book, then I had been before I acquired this book, and then when I read this book, I realized that is a symbol of a legend that Languoreth is actually involved in. And then I told Signe that I was going to Scotland this summer, and she just sent me a whole list of places that I need to go that are associated with the coming books. So I'm really excited.
You've got to share that list.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not planning a trip. I want to be, but just for the future,
Yeah.
I want to know where we should
If
go.
anyone is going to Scotland, let us know in the comments. Maybe Signe will give you a travel tip or two.
Yes. And I'm not being rude by looking at my phone. I'm getting audience questions on here. So Ivy in the comments wants to know how Signe decided to write a book set in mythical Scotland. So Trish, you may know the most about this. I know she wrote some nonfiction before this book.
Right. She wrote a nonfiction sort of travel memoir, and in the process of writing that book, came across a book in a tiny bookstore in England, just the kind of story that you would imagine. And I forget the author's name, but I think the book is called Finding Merlin.
Yeah.
And this is the book that sparked her imagination and explains how, even though we think of the Arthurian legends as happening in England, in the south of England, there's a lot of evidence to show that these events that were the basis of this legend really did take place in Scotland, and the people who told these stories migrated to England with their stories. So this just really intrigued Signe, and so she began to research, and that's how she found Languoreth and this whole story.
And Susie wants to know how Signe picked Languoreth's name. And I also wanted to mention that in the front of the book there's a pronunciation guide for all the characters' names. So I'd be interested to hear if you worked with her on this or if she knew already how these names should be pronounced from historical texts.
Well, Languoreth is her name, is the woman's, it's a real woman. The book it's a novel, but it's based on a real woman. And the other names in the book are real too. The manuscript came with a pronunciation guide.
Okay.
And I'm sure she knows like all these different sort of sub-languages and things. So I'm sure that the pronunciations are correct.
I read it. When I read it, it was a bound manuscript, which is something that we do in publishing. It's just a very simple copy of the manuscript, and it didn't have the pronunciation guide. And so I read it, and a lot of the names are not written the way that you'd say it. It's not necessarily intuitive, and so I had it in Languoreth makes sense when you look at it on the page. But some of the other ones, we were looking at Megan and I were looking at the names of one of the kings yesterday, and we were thinking Ritter, but apparently it's Ruthurk, and just here so I was wondering if anyone has ever read a book where you've heard someone's name in your head one way and then found out later that it was completely different and had to fix it in your mind.
I think you do, like any Russian novel, like anything. If you have to read in school any Tolstoy or Dostoevsky, and you think, oh, that's the N person, that's the T person.
Right.
I'll remember that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about Game of Thrones, how when people first read it before the TV series, they may have thought of the names differently, and then it's like, oh, it's actually Daenerys and Dothraki, and learning to say all these like long convoluted names. I actually saw something online. It was kind of a tweet that went around the book world internet that was saying, I read this whole book and then I found out that it's set in Australia and I was reading it in entirely the wrong accent. So let us know if you're going to read this with a Scottish accent.
Right.
Because you definitely should.
Yeah. Or if you've already read it and now you have to go back and reread it in a Scottish accent.
I can't do a Scottish accent.
No, me
so
either.
I can't hear it right.
It's a tough
in
one.
my head. But yes, we have another audience question. Amy wants to know how it's similar to Outlander. I would say it's very similar. I've read the first book in the Outlander series, and I really need to watch it. I heard it just went up on Netflix, but I think the settings are very similar, and it has that same atmospheric quality.
Big sweeping read. There's no time travel in this book, but it is just a big sweeping engrossing read like that.
And the love story element is really,
Yes.
I think there's a big parallel there. Yeah. So at this point, I feel like I need to ask you who your favorite characters are, because there are so many amazing, vibrant characters in the book, and Signe really brings them to life so well. So tell me.
I'll go first. So my favorite character, no surprise, is Languoreth, who is this beautiful redheaded character on the cover of the paperback. So she's our main heroine, and like Trish and Isabel have talked about previously, she really was a queen in 6th century Scotland, and her history was all but erased from historical record, and so what's really great about this book is Signe wrote it, as a tribute to her and her story, and her life and her journey, to bring it back into the forefront of culture. So Languoreth is, she's coming of age in this book. She's very brave, she's powerful, she's strong. She's basically a medieval feminist. And it's really interesting because she's kind of navigating two worlds as she's growing up. The one world is, with her brother and her father in their kingdom, with their old way of religion. And this Christianity is now encroaching on their lands, and she's actually promised to marry a Christian king. So she's tasked with navigating between her new life in her new kingdom with this new guy, while trying to stay true to her family and the old religion of her ancestors. And it's also interesting because the guy that she's really in love with is a druid warrior, in the old way religion.
He's really sexy.
Yes.
Hong Kong can burn in love.
So basically her true love and her husband are kind of at odds with each other. So she's trying to navigate between these two worlds and doing a great job with the power that she has as, a queen.
So I think my favorite character, or the character I've been thinking a lot about lately, is Lyloken, who is Languoreth's twin brother. And the person who will become what we think of as Merlin. And what I like about him in this book is that they're young when the book starts, and he's a boy becoming a man. And so he's very sensitive, and he's vulnerable, which is lovely to see. But that the role that he's going to have in society has to be one that's very powerful. He's going to basically become sort of a wise man. And that is something that, someone that everybody looks to, somebody who has to guide the society, and who's going to be guiding the society at the time of great conflict when these Christians are coming in and trying to just take away the old way of life. And so I think it's interesting contrast how he's so young and vulnerable, and how protective he is of his sister, and how sweet, and that this role that he's going to have to step into. And I happen to know that the next book begins with him.
Yes. So
more on that later.
More on that in a second, because I have to tell you my favorite character first. I think we all probably want to pick Languoreth, but I will pick someone else.
But I stole her.
She stole it. It's fine. We're fine. But I think one of my favorite characters is Ariani, and she is, so Trish mentioned Lyloken. Am I saying it right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Refer to the pronunciation guide in the front of the book. And Lyloken is being trained to be a wisdom keeper, which is this kind of mystic, but also a politician and leading the community. And there are various wisdom keepers in different parts of the world and of the kingdom. And Ariani is a woman, a female wisdom keeper who comes into the book near the beginning, when the main character is very young, and she comes because her own home is in conflict. And she essentially helps raise Languoreth, and she's a very powerful, strong woman who also has these mystical abilities. and I think her influence is really, really cool.
Yeah, she is cool.
Oh, and I need to remind you all that if you're just tuning in, we're here with Book Club Favorites talking about The Lost Queen by Signe Pike, and there's a giveaway going on. So 5 winners will be getting copies of The Lost Queen and next month's Book Club Favorites book. So just go ahead and leave a question in the comments and you'll be entered. All right. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, Trish, is you're an editor and you get a ton of books, a ton of proposals in your inbox all the time. What made this book stand out? What made you want to publish it?
I couldn't stop reading it. I mean, that's how you know, right? You just, like, and we do our reading for acquisitions. We don't sit in our office and read. We have many things to do in the office, so we do all our reading for acquisition in our quote-unquote free time. On the subway or during the weekend, and I think this was a weekend that was completely lost to this book. No, the family, the food shopping, all the things that have to happen on the weekend didn't happen because I had this book. And I, as I said, I was looking over my emails of when I bought the book, and I wrote to the agent after the weekend. I was just like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this book.
I need it.
I have this book, and that's when you read a book like that, when you read so many books and one book makes you miss your subway stop, or makes you read long into the night, you know that it's something that you want to buy.
Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we actually changed the cover from the hardcover to the paperback. Megan has it over there, so you can see the hardcover, and if you guys were following along when we published the hardcover, you'll recognize it.
There's some similarities in the design.
Yes, so talk a little bit about the change and why we made the change.
Well, in this design, this is historical fiction, and we felt that a lot of historical fiction recently has women on the cover, particularly like what we used to call the headless woman, a woman in a costume and you can't really see her head, or maybe her head is turned away.
Let us know if you have any of those kinds of books on your
shelves.
And
we wanted this book to look different than all those other. We wanted to signal that it was different, as like a really strong read. This is also sort of a little bit of a nod to Outlander, I think, the original Outlander cover. So I really loved this. There's a stag down here. I don't know if you could probably see it, but which figures importantly at the beginning of the novel. And in this cover, we wanted to appeal to a wider audience. We wanted to get this book into more accounts. We did want to feature the woman, but not the headless woman.
She has a head.
We love it that she's in action. She's running. She has the red hair.
Very evocative
and
of
we
the
have
character.
the mist. We have the landscape. So we're gonna. Interestingly enough, we had a meeting this morning to talk about the cover for Signe's next book, and that was a fun and interesting discussion.
Oh,
so we'll have to stay tuned.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So what I should mention at this point, and what you've heard us allude to, is that this is not the one and only book. It is part of a trilogy, and the next 2 books will be coming out in the next couple of years. The next one comes out in summer 2020, which may feel like a long time from now, but in the book publishing world, in the book publishing world, we're already starting to talk about summer 2020, so it doesn't feel that far to us. And Trish still has to edit it all, and so we all like the time.
So Trish, what can you tell us?
But yes,
Nothing.
tell us.
Nothing.
Oh,
I've only read 100
how
pages.
could you?
Okay.
Yeah, Megan and I haven't read it yet.
We're
And
dying
You
to.
have to give it to us as soon as you have it.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
Signe?
Mark your calendars, summer 2020.
Signe, we're so excited. And we also have a question, hold on, they're telling me things behind the camera. I've ruined the illusion. There are people behind the camera. Kelly wants to know who we would cast in an adaptation of this, because I feel like it is so cinematic. And I have been giving this a lot of thought, because I love thinking up casting in my head when I'm reading a book. And we were talking about how it has to be a redhead. Her beautiful red hair is so vibrant in the book, and you can see it on the cover here. I feel like the some of the feel of Game of Thrones really lends itself to this book, and so I feel like Rose Leslie would be a really good, they're giving me blank looks, watch Game of Thrones. Rose Leslie would be really great. I feel like Kit Harington would also make a really great, what's the Malgwyn? How do you say his name? Malgwyn. The hunk. He would, I mean, you could just like take that couple, they're also a couple in real life, which is awesome, and put it in an adaptation of the book, and given the characters' descriptions, it would totally make sense. If we can't get them, I've been thinking about this. We could do, I feel like Saoirse Ronan, if she dyed her hair, the actress from Lady Bird, she'd be so good if she dyed her hair red.
Excellent idea.
Yeah, I think she'd be really great in it. And it's one of those things where you'd have to cast younger versions, because she really does grow up in this book. She's like 8 or 10 when the book starts. So you need someone younger. And I was thinking Sadie Sink, who is an actress in the 2nd season of Stranger Things. And she has like this beautiful red hair. And I think she'd be really great as a younger Languoreth.
Well, funny you should talk about casting, because
Yes. Tell us.
the rights have been sold to Bruna Papandrea, who won an auction for the rights to film this story. So the entire trilogy is going to be turned into a big television series, I think, and they're working on the script now.
Okay, I'm getting audience comments that are saying for people that they'd cast the girl from The Host. I don't watch The Host. Do either of you watch it? Okay, I'm looking it up after we finish. And Christina Hendricks, because Christina Hendricks would be really great. She was in Mad Men. She was in like an episode or 2 of Firefly. I'll show you guys pictures later. She makes a lot of sense. She would be so good. But yes, and it's so exciting that it's being made into a TV series.
We can't wait.
We really can't wait. It's so exciting when any of our books are made into a series.
But this
or
will
movies.
just be so perfect to be on screen, adapted for a TV series. I think it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Tess wants to know who else Languoreth is like, I think in other movies or books to understand the character better. I've been saying that I think she's a lot like Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones, also a redhead. Coincidence? Maybe. But I think that both of the Stark girls in Game of Thrones, she's a little bit like Arya Stark and Sansa Stark. She's given a knife at the beginning of the book, and I was thinking, oh, it's going to go the Arya route, but it's almost more like the Sansa route, and she's this really, really powerful queen in early medieval Scotland, and it's so cool. I get serious Sansa vibes. Who else would you?
Well, I don't know about heroines, but the book that other people compare this book to is Mists of Avalon, which is an older book, but a classic. And sort of, there's a lot of, when you talk about this book, there's a lot of not since the Mists of Avalon has anyone done this successfully.
Yeah. I also think, did any of you watch Merlin? I think it's an old BBC show, and it also draws on the Arthurian legend myths, and Languoreth isn't in it. Whatever.
Well, they missed the mark.
They missed out. But I think it definitely has those same kind of vibes. So if you like that, definitely read this. So I'm being told we have to wrap it up. So this, if you're just watching now, we've been talking about The Lost Queen by Signe Pike as Book Club Favorites Pick of the Month, and we're running a giveaway, so the giveaway will continue after the video ends, so feel free to go ahead and put a question in the comments. We'll come in and answer, Signe will answer, and you'll be answered for a chance to win a copy of The Lost Queen and a copy of next month's pick, which is, I can finally reveal, hold on, I need my hands free, Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I'm so excited that this is the next pick. I read Diane Setterfield's first book, The 13th Tale, when I was in high school. And it's gothic, it's mysterious, and I loved it. And I'm really excited to read this one. You all should read this one. So get ready to hear a lot more about this one. And make sure you join the Book Club Favorites Facebook group to hear more about the next book, to see more about The Lost Queen. Oh, and I want to give Signe's social media a shout out. So follow her at Signe Pike on Twitter and Instagram, and at Signe.Pike on Facebook. We'll drop links in the comments. But she's amazing. She's so sweet. We love following her. We love you, Signe.
Hi.
And she'll talk more about the book and about the TV deal. So definitely
Stay tuned
follow
on
along.
that. Yeah.
Yes. So get the book, add it to your summer reading list, and let us know what you think.